Hey everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. So today's episode of the Daily Scoop is going to be a special one because I am on the old Instagram and it's going to be on my YouTube too. I tried to do this in the last episode, but it just was a wreck. So I am using my phone instead of the DSLR camera. It was just a faff on, so I'm just going basic as hell until I eventually move into my new house where I will have a dedicated office. So right now I'm on the kitchen table. People can see all the stuff behind us. They can see my fridge, which has all of the pictures that I've drawn. I mean, that Frankie's drawn them. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of get this out on, obviously in podcast format. So if you are watching this on Instagram TV, you know, it is meant to be more of a kind of audio thing. So get yourself on Spotify or iTunes or what do they call it? Like podcasts on Apple, you know, or any other distributor out there. You can just search the Build with Bickle podcast and you can listen to these on the go. That's kind of the idea of them. So I'm not going to go crazy with the visuals and, you know, introduce a goose or something. If I mention a goose, I'd put a goose in there, like here. I'm not going to do that. What I want to use the podcast as and these videos as is just an opportunity. It's supplementary to your endeavors within health, fitness and nutrition. And for those that know me, know that I love nutrition, but also fascinated with the behavior change surrounding that. So this kind of brings me to today's topic. I have different topics that I spend, you know, maybe 10 upwards of 15 minutes talking about. And today's topic is going to be regarding transformation. So a lot of people do these transformation programs out there. A lot of people do them personally, but obviously a lot of companies sell these. And usually they tend to be between 6, maybe at the very most 12 weeks. Some are even as low as 4 weeks transformations. And obviously me working in the industry that I work in and with the clientele that I work with, you know, I have a few hang-ups with these sorts of transformations. Actually, in the past, people on podcasts can't see when I'm using my quotation fingers. I try and just exaggerate it in the voice, so like people that are listening are going, oh, he's using his fingers again. But you know, if you're watching on Instagram or YouTube's, you can see that I'm doing the old finger action. It sounds a bit funny that, but we'll carry on. Yeah, so 4 to 6 week transformations, and like obviously what everybody's kind of, especially in this day and age of social media, what everybody's drawn towards is a visual representation of success. But I think this comes across in all aspects of life. So what house you live in, what car you drive, you know, what clothes you wear. And, you know, everybody just kind of built up this picture of like, right, oh, these must be successful. There must be something to this thing, to this person in what they're doing. And obviously, when it comes to these transformation challenges, the changes within these people physically, the ones that you see, by the way, you tend not to see the unsuccessful, the ones that couldn't last the course. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But they're somewhat drastic, these transformations, and you know, they will pose for their photo and have a huge smile on their face. And what we've got to look at is, right, how has this person done this in such a short period of time? And let's kind of qualify what is success, what is dietary success, because short-term, acutely, and I'm not against an aggressive approach towards dieting if it's done with kind of an education behind it. It's got solid foundations and reasonings. There's sometimes in myself that I may go a little bit more aggressive with the caloric deficit. But what these transformations typically do is put you on a meal plan. Now, it doesn't matter how big or small you are, you might get this generic plan. So if this generic plan totals, say, I don't know, 1,200 calories, if you're like a large female or male person, that might be like a 50% deficit, okay, which is humongous. But if you're a small female, that might be like a 15% deficit. So it's still a deficit all the same, regardless of the composition of the diet. Now, for a small female or male, because males can be tiny too, like Tom Cruise and the guy out of Game of Thrones, the little one. Yeah. So with those sorts of individuals, we've got to kind of bear in mind, obviously, their expenditure across the day, their physical activity, their BMR, their basal metabolic rate, all of this sort of stuff. So, that might be appropriate for that individual. And with the larger individual, it's going to generate very fast rates of fat loss because of the humongous deficit that's kind of being made. That coupled with typically these kind of high intense interval based workouts and very glycogen depleting workouts. Now, glycogen's the storage form of carbohydrates. Now, when you do anaerobic activity such as sprinting and weightlifting, you use glycogen as fuel. Now, if you're not replacing that glycogen, okay, you are losing glycogen from your system. Glycogen weighs shit, okay? And with every gram of glycogen, you're getting about 3 grams of water. So if you are using all this glycogen and water, okay, but you're not replacing it, guess what the majority of the weight loss is coming from? And then guess what happens when people go back to eating normal? Put weight on. And unfortunately, without the good education around like scales and stuff like that and understanding how the body works, typically what happens is people associate weight gain with failure, especially if the past 12 weeks has just been solely focused on scale and maybe no additional objectivity and, again, education and support around the what those mean. If that's not there, people typically fall off. And what usually happens within these dietaries, patterns, protocols that coupled alongside these transformations is it puts an individual's life in a vacuum. Now, as I mentioned, there is nothing wrong with an aggressive approach to diet, and for some people it's life-saving. There's clinical trials that use like 800 calorie shakes with type 2 diabetics that are morbidly obese, because that literally will save their life. They need fat off them now so they become more sensitive to things like insulin, and they are like on a path to long-term health. That isn't where their life is going to be. That 800 calorie diet is a huge deficit. It gets drastic results fast. And it also creates a huge amount of buy-in. Now, sometimes even with my clientele, I do like to go a little bit aggressive at the beginning, because typically that's where their motivation's at their highest. And also they want to see results. And when people see results, they're more likely to last the course. And unfortunately, when people are doing these transformations, it's such a short period of time. When they're finished, it's like, right, what's next? And like potentially they've only gotten a physical transformation. They haven't actually gotten the transformation that they maybe thought they'd get of how they wanted to feel. And everything's just kind of, relatively short-sighted with these transformations. And I want to see these transformations not before and after 6 weeks. I want to see them after 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. Because in reality, when it comes to your nutrition and weight management, we don't want to regain the weight. We don't want to put it back on. That kind of defines the point of the transformation. We're doing it because, yes, we want to lose weight, but we want to maintain said lost weight. And I made a little point of it earlier regarding what happens to the people after these transformations, what goes on after that. The ones that you don't see, the transformations that didn't last the course. And again, as I mentioned, you don't see them after. You see the before and after, but you don't see the after. And quite often I find this with people, and I've spoken to people that have done these things in the past, and they just go off on one. They end up worse off, and they may end up doing the transformation again. And psychologically, that's got to be hard, because obviously, you failed and having to redo it, and then potentially redo it a third and fourth and fifth time. It's just kind of like, when does this stop? And when do the people that are doing this kind of tell people, listen, you need to kind of move beyond this. This is designed to get you rapid results, yes, but where is the additional education after that? And this is why obviously things like this podcast is supplementary to those that are maybe going, okay, then I've done my transformation, what's next? And learning about nutrition, learning about kind of habits, behaviors, learning about how food influences scale weight. If you're female, how the menstrual cycle influences scale weight. All of these sorts of things are super important to the long-term adherence and compliance to health and well-being, not just physical health, but emotional health and all of that sort of stuff. So I'm not a huge fan of these transformation things. I'm not like enjoying particularly what they are about. I feel like, they add more harm than good to the nutrition, but they typically, to the fitness industry, the nutrition industry, the diet industry, but I find like they are exactly what people are looking for. Quick fixes, fast results, and to get rid of responsibility, like that long-term responsibility. And I get it. I understand, like, when the people I work with in terms of fat loss, a lot of them are very desperate to lose weight, and they're kind of in that headspace of, I'm willing to do anything other than, commit to the long term. Like these get rich quick schemes, we know the bullshit. And it's the same with these crash diets. Yes, they might get some short-term success, but what is the long-term outcomes of these things? Now, what we need at the end of this is, what should you do? And if you are doing these things, what comes next? And like for me, it is about that long-term commitment. It is about learning, education, understanding yourself, understanding your body, understanding your appetite, understanding, roughly how much you can eat in order to lose body fat, maintain body weight. And that often requires just a little bit investigative work. You have to it could be using MyFitnessPal for a duration of time, keeping a journal. But what I typically recommend is standardizing your nutrition, making sure that you all your ducks in a row and get some kind of repetition in place and structure and organization and forward thinking, but allowing for, things that you enjoy, like indulgences, like a drink and, chocolate and all of this sort of stuff that you enjoy, and make sure that's within the diet and we're not trying to keep that away. I see people that are doing these crazy transformations and going to these extremes, and I'm like, I don't even do that when I'm at the tail end of a bodybuilding prep or a photo shoot. I look at that and think, God, no, that's a bit extreme. And that's me like down on the bones of my arse. So yeah, I just thought I would kind of discuss the nuances around that. And, more importantly, I think the hardship comes from the psychological cascade that comes after an individual fails their diet, because they do take that shit personally, and they think they need to be more motivated, have more willpower, be stronger, and it's just barking up the wrong tree. And what I'll do with clients and try and do is kind of get them looking towards all of the things they want to do and they can do, and not all of the things that they shouldn't do or can't do, and removing this guilt away from their nutrition and diet and exercise. And quite often these, even with slimming clubs and transformation trials, they get sucked into the community and it becomes the social norm. And when they are outside of that community, they just don't have any individualization. They don't know what to do. They haven't any autonomy, choice, education, structure, support. So they end up going off on one and then getting themselves into a bit of a hole, a bit of a rut, until the pain becomes so great that they do it again. They go back to slimming world or the transformation thing because it worked the last time, quotations. Yeah, hopefully that helped. Hopefully you enjoy this structure. It's just me prattling on for 10, 15 minutes, giving you my kind of input to everything in life, mostly around nutrition and training to help you. Have you ever done one of these transformations? Have you? How did it work out for you? What was the pros? What were the cons? Put it in the comments or send us an email or a message at ian@buildwithbickle.com. Of course, if you are interested in my help, go to buildwithbickle.com or just send us a DM over here or whatever. Links will be in the YouTubes. And yeah, that's it. Just a nice, simple, easy commentary on that. And that's the first kind of daily scoop episode that's been filmed. So well done, everybody, for making it this far. And I will catch you next time.